The music world moves fast. Want to stay up to date on the latest albums and get in-depth examinations with the artists? Check out Consequence of Sound, the podcast. Bite-sized album reviews for the music fan on the go who wants to stay in the know, and much more. Subscribe to the series on iTunes or your favorite podcast provider, and let the writers of Consequence of Sound steer you right. Check it out at consequenceofsound.net/COS podcast. Consequence Podcast Network.
Welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith With. It's an audio interview series presented by WFPK Independent Louisville at WFPK.org, Consequence of Sound, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Wherever you're listening from today, hit that subscribe button right now so you can keep up with these interviews. I'm Kyle Meredith. Shawn Mullins. A lot of people know him from the song Lullaby, and in fact, it was 20 years ago this year that the album that was on Soul's Core found its release, so we're going to go back in time to talk about that, as well as how that record ties into his new project, Soul's Core Revival. He's re-recorded all those songs with a lot of friends, give them a new shine for a double disc collection. He's also going to tell me about a run-in he had with the band Dokken, how Leslie Fram changed his life, covering Chris Christopherson, and a heartbreaking story about losing his wife to suicide. It's Kyle Meredith with Shawn Mullins.
Hey, Kyle. It's Shawn Mullins. How are you?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Let's see here. I know we're sort of, we're going to weave in and out of the past and the present because it's so intertwined with what you're doing right now. But let's sort of start with 20 years ago, because this is the year that Soul's Core celebrates its first real big anniversary, and it's sort of, I guess, where your headspace has been this year too, right?
Definitely. It's it's a matter of kind of 20 years. The first thing was people around me were saying, hey, you need to do something because it's 20 years, man, come on. And I was like, wow, I thought about that, and I said, well, Columbia owns the masters. Why don't we just re-record the thing instead of making like some kind of, having to deal with Sony? No offense to them, but I'm not really a priority for them probably at the moment, right? So I thought there's nothing wrong with re-recording all the material, kind of doing it like we do it now, 20 years later. All that stuff has grown, and some of it's fairly much the same, but just after playing something so much for over the years, it will evolve and change and grow. And that's what the Soul's Core Revival project really is. It's a celebration and a redo of everything in a different way. We took liberties with key signatures or time signatures. Sometimes we changed the time from a 3/4 time to a 4/4 or vice versa. Lots of different things. And then, of course, there's a whole solo record that has stories and songs with just me and an instrument. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, so it's actually 2 albums that's going to make up Soul's Core Revival?
That's right. And, as far as physical albums, once we go to vinyl, it may be four discs because of the amount of material on it. It's at least 3 vinyl discs, and it might be 4. A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Because the songs are jams now. Some of them extend to 7 or 8 minutes. It's a jam band and with really good story songs. So it's kind of an interesting concept. It's a little bit different than stuff that's out there, but it has the sound almost of, there's moments that you hear Allman Brothers or really old Panic, or there's moments because, some of the members of those bands are in the band, like the guy that was the guitar player for Sea Level and the keyboardist Randall Bramlett, they were in that band, and that was right in the middle of all that, and so there's a Southern rock jam kind of element, as well as you still got this kind of basic singer-songwriter songs as the skeleton of it all.
You talk about the music changing. When you sing a song, any of these songs for that long, do some of the lyrics start to really take on different shapes for you as well? And maybe what I'm asking is, how you relate to the meanings behind the songs?
Oh, totally, man. That's the weirdest thing about it to me is the meaning of the songs have changed over the years, and it's almost like they make sense now and they didn't before. When you write a song 20, 22 years back, you're in a certain space. You've lived a certain amount of time. You've experienced a certain amount of life. And, 20 more years, all of a sudden those songs take on a whole nother meaning. Shimmer now is about my boy. I didn't have a son when I wrote it. Didn't have a kid at all. And so it's really beautiful. It's a nice experience. And we're touring around this stuff, and sometimes we can do it with a band. Sometimes it's a trio or a duo. It just depends on the size of the venue, really. We don't have a label. We're doing this all on our own. So it's with the help of the crowd. We're crowd-funded at this point. So it's pretty fun and kind of pioneer-like in a way, kind of full circle in a way, like you say. It's what I was doing 20 years ago before I ever had a deal. We were kind of doing it on our own and, doing just fine. So.
Well, listening back on it, one of the things, I don't know why I never noticed this before, but there's so many places within these songs. There's songs with places in the title, and others that are not, sort of name check spots here and there. When you were writing this, and things were bubbling up enough to where you started getting the label attention, was this sort of the road record? Were these songs written on the road? Is that why they embody so many different actual spots?
Yes, they were all journal entries. Most of them, actually, can't say all of them, but Lullaby, September in Seattle, Twin Rocks, Oregon, a lot of these, probably 7 to 8 of the songs were journal entries that happened to rhyme as I was writing them. I kind of was playing with rhyme at the same time, doing a writing exercise. And I never really altered the lyric. Some of them, if you really start to dive into the lyric, you'll go, okay, well, could have been done better. I mean, I look at it now anyway and say that. But they were honest, put pen to paper and then go, hey, I'm going to make a song out of this journal entry. And so that's really what they were. So they were titled Where I Was the Night I Journaled It. And the music came later. Typically, I would write these journal things later. And when I got back from that, especially the West Coast tour of the fall of '97, was when I really developed most of that material lyrically. And then, over the winter, I worked out the music, and we recorded it in the spring of '98. And by July, I had a big old fat record deal.
And where did that come from? Obviously, you built it up on your own, as you were saying. Is this just from touring and touring and touring, where it finally kind of comes together?
Well, I think yes. As far as being ready for what's coming your way, yes, that helped. But having the song and then having an incredible amount of help from Leslie Fram. I don't know if you know Leslie, but she was the program director at 99X at the time. Mm-hmm. She's now head of creative at CMT in Nashville, but she was kind of the head of the station in Atlanta, and she was given the song Lullaby from the guy that played the local music show, Steve Craig, who's an old buddy of mine. And Steve would play my music on his local show, as he would do other artists that were local, just because he liked it. And he had, feelings about this song that kind of was bigger than a local show, and he handed it to Leslie, and she flipped out and called me and said my life was about to change, that he was going to spin the song about 30 times a week on a major radio station. So it did. It really it caused a ruckus, and she wrote letters to other stations and sent CDs and never asked for a thing in return. Just really, really championed the record. And, I found out later she did the same thing with artists like Collective Soul, Marvelous 3, a bunch of the local folks that way earlier than me, from 92 on, when 99X started. Leslie was she was a go-getter. They played stuff they wanted to play, which was cool. That was the big break, was Miss Leslie Fram.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hell of ears, that she's always had and everything, because, nailing it, especially on that single, which goes on to become Grammy nominated and a hallmark song of yours. I mean, how's that song? If that song has changed through the years, because I know for some artists that's also, sort of a, double-edged sword. That's as Damon Albarn has been saying lately, the ball that you're chained to in a way. Have you ever felt like that with this one?
No, I've always felt appreciative of the song. I felt like without that song, I'd still be doing this, but on another playing field, and another league. So that song brought me to the dance. I'm very thankful for it. I never get tired of playing it. It's kind of weird. I never get tired of delivering that chorus that's difficult to sing, as you can imagine, being a baritone. And for some reason, I love it. I love it. I love the crowd's reaction. What's really fun is playing a place where maybe there's people there that there's going to be people there that don't really know your music. They got drugged there, okay, by someone that's a fan. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of getting through the set as best they can. They're enjoying it. But all of a sudden, when we play that song, they perk up and go, "Oh, that guy. I remember that guy." The rock guy. You know, so you remember the band Dokken?
Yeah, of course.
All right. So the other night we're in Sacramento. I think it was Sacramento and Santa Cruz, one of those places. And we're in the elevator, and a band gets in the elevator with us. We start all going up, and we've all got guitars on our backs and gig bags, you know. And these guys all had like eye makeup on, and they were, you know, we were all sweaty and from our gigs, but they clearly had kind of a glam rock look. And they were like, "How'd your gig go, man?" And we were like, "Ours went great. How about yours?" And good. You know, "Where'd you play?" "Oh, we were over at the Coach House." So, "Okay, well, we were over at so-and-so. And what band are you with?" And the guy goes, "Dokken." And he starts walking out the elevator, and the younger guy in the band turns around and he goes, "What's your band?" And I went, "Shawn Mullins." And as the elevator doors close and he's on the other side, he goes, "The Rockabye guy?" And then the door closes. And me and my bass player and guitar player just fell out laughing because, of course, we all grew up with Dokken.
Right.
And now someone in Dokken knows by chance who I am, which is hilarious. So,
The Rockabye guy.
Yeah, the Rockabye guy. So, yeah, that'll be the next album.
Your Dokken crossover. It's only around the corner. It's right in the grass.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an iconic song, and you know, it's still everywhere. I mean, certain, you know, places that you can always, you know, walk into, and it's still part of the I don't know, the lifestyle culture of whatever stations and types of music that they're playing, and to have a song that I can say has multiple hooks all the way through it too. I mean, it's easy to say, you know, the "Everything Will Be All Right" or the Rockabye part, but even that opening line and the way the story just kind of, you know, rolls out, especially in a baritone. You know, it's almost like a Tom Waits kind of opening there. It's always been fun to sing along to.
Well, I'm a huge fan of his and Christopherson and, you know, Isaac Hayes and a lot of baritone basses over the years. I grew up hearing from my dad's records and then records that I would get into as well. And I guess I started to try to study baritones and how do the ones that are surviving in pop music do it? Because when I say pop music, I'm meaning something other than classical or jazz. Mm-hmm. You know, how do you survive? Because it's really a tenor's game. Any decade you go to, the bigger hits are almost always delivered by a high-voiced male or a female. So it's hard. I mean, even my little boy said, "Dad, if you want to be a rock star, you got to have a high voice," when he was about 4. You know, and I thought that was great because he loved AC/DC at the age of 4. He just thought, you know, TNT and songs like that, and I love it too. Mm-hmm. And so we were, you know, I thought that was really insightful, you know, and I said, "Yeah, buddy, I have to really work hard and I have to work my falsetto a lot to get up there because I think you're right. People do want to hear a high voice sometimes."
Well, you mentioning Christopherson, that's that cover is on Soul's Core too. You did Sunday Morning on there, which is.
I did, and you know, I was up to that point. I had covered one of his songs on all my records. That was kind of a tip of the hat to Christopherson and his writing and delivery influence on me. And of course, this record's way beyond kind of a Christopherson approach. It's more of a soul delivered record. I'm kind of unplugged all the plugs, and I didn't let myself be controlled vocally at all. And so I just took a real big leap of faith, and I didn't worry about, okay, do I need to sing it just like I did before? No, you don't. You need to sing it like you want to sing it now. Now that 20 years has gone by, and you know, I lost a wife to suicide a little over a year ago. You know, his mom's still around though, and my boy is great and healthy, and there's all this life, you know, around and hard times too, and in a way, all that stuff is kind of, you know, it sounds stupid really, but I have to say it because it's my truth. It kind of gave me the blues. It made me start to sing differently, kind of going through some hard times in my life, and I think I'm just embracing that, and people seem to really dig it live. You know, it's not that I'm night and day different singer. I'm just a little bit more loose and more jazz influence with what I'm doing. I might take a note to a whole nother place that I never did before, and I'm not even consciously thinking about doing it while I do it. And I used to be afraid of that. I was afraid of not delivering a song a certain way, and it feels kind of nice and free, you know.
I didn't know about the hardships and everything. I'm really sorry to hear that. That's
That's part of life, you know. Gosh, I mean, I look around and it's that kind of world. I mean, we're all going through tough times, and I'm thankful for music and just the people in my life, the friends, the fans, the people, music in general. You know, it's everyone around it. It keeps me going, and so no, I didn't. I'm saying that because I think overall it's become a positive force. This whole thing, you know.
You mentioned your son a few times and how Shimmer is kind of become, you know, about him. That song sort of took on a life of its own during its time too, right? I mean, I didn't know this, but it became part of Olympics at some points.
Yeah, what's funny is that song was written in '95, so, you know, 3 years before Soul's Core was released. It was on another album called Eggshells that I released in '96. So the song had to be, what happened was Columbia didn't hear another single on my record. They were like, we got to have something else we can knock down the doors at radio. I said, well, I've got this old song called Shimmer that people seem to really take to, you know. People like it live a lot. It's got a nice chorus, I think. So they hired Peter Collins, the great producer who, gosh, he'd done everything from Queensryche to Indigo Girls to Pass the Doochie to the Left-Hand Side or whatever. You know, the guy's like produced a ton of records. And it was a 5-minute song, as it was, as a lot of my songs were back then. I didn't know about timing for radio. I didn't think about it, of course. There was no reason to. And Peter kind of helped me with all that. He was like, look, man, I know all these lyrics are important, but the fact is you're going to have to cut 2 halves of 2 verses to make this work. Or you've got to cut the bridge, and I don't recommend that because I like the bridge. So, you know, he was child gloves, but at the same time, you know, this is what we have to do. And it helped. I think it helped to get a lot more airplay that way. And then, yes, we put it on Soul's Core after about, I don't know, 300,000 were printed. I think we stuck it on the record after that. And then it took on some international attention with Australia, and they used it for their, kind of like their theme song, I guess, for their Sydney Olympics and their athletes, which was obviously an honor and very cool. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a weird what a song can do years later, you know, you kind of dig it back up.
It keeps coming back around. It's a shame, you know, that the label didn't instantly hear a song, because one of my all-time favorites, although I don't know that it would have done great on the radio, but, you know, like, and On a Rainy Night is such a great mood on the album. I mean, it's sort of like nothing else on that record, too.
I'm so glad you like that one. I can't wait for you to hear the new one.
Oh, really?
Yes, if you like that one, because that's my favorite change of all, and because it's not really, it's just kind of better. It's the same vibe, but a little more going on in it and extended. We go back to the chorus again after a long jam.
Cool.
Randall Bramlett saxophone in the middle. It's really beautiful and haunting, and kind of, I've always loved that song too. But yeah, I guess it wasn't right, you know. Man, we're talking about Columbia. You know, it's Columbia record.
Right, yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing. I was totally lost. And it was like, you know, I had hit one home run and someone stuck me in the big leagues all of a sudden.
You know, there's a.
You better believe it. The publishing company, that EMI, the president of that company, that was a scary man. He's a great guy, but you know, that next record after Soul's Core didn't do nearly as well, and boy, he let me know it.
Oh no.
No, and he was just like, when are you going to write some songs that I can make money with, you know? And he was very to the point, and very silk suit, and me in t-shirt and blue jeans still. But yeah, man, you learn a lot when that's a big business, and you know, I kind of got the feeling that it was a bit big for what I wanted to do. I really wanted more control of the kind of material, and you know, after the Thorns project, I really felt that way, because that was pretty much put together by the label and management, and it was a nice idea, but the personalities conflicted, and that was a hard thing, and that was 3 years of all of our careers. So it, you know, by the time 2004 rolled around, I was almost done, as far as like, that's enough time for people to completely forget. And so I had to kind of start over. You know, guarantees were back down to a few $100s again, and you had to start over. And I didn't mind doing it. That's what I do. And you know, we don't care if it gets down to singing for our supper. We're here for the music, you know, and that's kind of, as long as you can feed your babies and keep it going.
What's that? It reminded me of the line in Oregon where he said, can't get rich playing in coffee houses. Which
Right. Unless you do a week straight, which is what I do now.
Right.
I'll do 3 or 4 nights at the coffee house or something. But the crowds have been great. But I never was a stadium act. It was always a club, small theater type act, and it'd be fun to do more festivals. I think that's where this band, when we're playing live, could really shine in a festival setting. It could be really fun for people. It's a different thing, and it's such a good musicianship. It's kind of beyond what I'm hearing in most festivals. It's like, oh, well, these guys can really play. I mean, I've got some just unbelievable class, A musicians, so it's so much fun.
Well, I can't wait to hear how it's come out on this Soulscore Revival, which gets released this fall. What's the date on it?
Well, the first date was July 20, and I missed it. Okay. Yeah.
So it's later this year, yeah.
I think September, by the end of September for sure. This fall for sure coming out. And I got behind on my artwork and things like that, and listening to mixes while I'm trying to be on the road. And so, yeah, we just sent it off to mastering, so we're done. We just have to kind of get it all made now.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear it. I mean, you've enticed me plenty throughout the interview here. So,
well, man, I'm excited too. I hope you do like it.
And that you sort of, it's being, looking back through all of this. Are you still writing for whatever comes after this as well?
Absolutely. I'm actually working on a song right now for an upcoming film, and I'm always trying to write a song. My friend Chuck Cannon years ago said, "Shawn, I can't wait to write a song," and that's how I feel too.
Awesome. Well, we're really fortunate that you keep writing those songs too. We're big fans around here, so we always appreciate it.
Appreciate all you guys do. Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, anytime, Shawn. It was a pleasure talking to you. I'll look forward to Soulscore Revival, and we'll see you next time you're around these parts.
See you soon, man. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, man.
You too. Bye.
Bye. And a big thanks to Mr. Shawn Mullins, the latest release, Soulscore Revival, and the 20th anniversary of Soulscore. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button right now wherever you're listening from. Maybe it's on YouTube. Maybe it's our podcast version at iTunes or Podchaser. If you're listening from there, give it a rating while you're around, and then go ahead and leave a review as well. After that, you can head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show every Monday through Thursday from noon to 3 Eastern. You'll also find some bonus episodes of this series. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.
Consequence Podcast Network.